Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second installment of the Project Manager's Playbook, Managing Remote Teams. And this, my friends, is going to be an exciting live stream. Last week, we talked about ClickUp Chat. And so what we're doing in this series is we are taking very niche topics that have to do with managing remote teams, and we're just going deep. We're diving in deep each week where we are exploring, especially for project managers and other leaders across industries, we're really looking at how can we manage our teams better? How can we communicate better? How can we be more productive? And how can we get the work done? And so tonight, we're talking about one-on-one meetings, and I'm excited for us to do that. We are here live from YouTube, in LinkedIn, and also Instagram. And so I encourage you to share this live stream with about so many different people, right? Share it with your favoritist. I don't know if that's not a word, but share it with your favorite peeps. Share it with your favorite peeps that are inside the operation space. There are other project managers, other leaders. There's many of us out here that are managing remote teams. We might also be team members, right? But may have a leadership role that's not necessarily that we're managing the team itself. So everybody can get in the mix and learn something here tonight. So I'm going to share my screen because we're going to get right into it. But first and foremost, definitely put your name, where you're from, and also what are you working on. It is December 11th, and we have about 20 days until the end of December. And there's a lot of great things that are happening. So don't count yourself out, okay? We are going to get into the mix. I'm going to press the play button here. Perfect. I think we can see all the things, which I'm super excited about. What's going on, Marie Peden? It's good to see you. Dana Winston. It's good to see everybody here today. So the ultimate guide to effective one-on-one meetings, right? The effective one-on-one meetings. And that's what we're here to look at today. What do we have on the agenda here today? We're going to talk about the question of the day. We also are going to talk about one-on-one preparation and structure. Like when you do one-on-one meetings, like what's the preparation look like? What does the structure look like? And then we're going to have some tech demos. I'm excited to lean into two of my favorite tools, Coda and Miro. We'll see if we can get to Miro today. We may just want to focus on Coda, and then we'll have some questions. So definitely put your questions in the chat. And so that will be fantastic. So the question of the day, and let me get the question of the day. Here we go. How do I structure a one-on-one meeting to ensure it's productive and focused? That's the question that we are answering here today. How do I structure a one-on-one meeting to ensure it's productive and focused? And I want to also make note that today we're going to be taking this from the perspective of both the manager and the team member and employee. Okay, so I think that's really important for us to underscore and understand that we're going to be taking it from both sides so that nobody is left out. So who's had this question in mind? Because let me tell you something. When it comes to one-on-one meetings, I know I used to think that they're boring. I used to think that they weren't useful. I used to think all the time that one-on-one meetings were bothersome and it got in the way of work. But I had to be challenged, and I was challenged by one of my mentors who asked me this question when she said, "Ashley, do you know what your job is?" And I was like, "Of course I do, because it's in the job description." Hello. Like, why are you asking me? Why are you asking me this question? Of my job, and like, do I know what I'm going to do? But what she was really getting at was outside of your job description and your title, you really need to lean into understanding what the expectations are for your managers. And so I was like, okay, cool. I said, let's break that down a little bit more. So she says to me, she says, Ashley, you have to be the one to present not only the problem, but also the solution. Okay, let's make sure that we don't let that like fly over us, right? And we're going to talk about, especially for team members, what is it that you all need to do to, or we need to do to prepare for our one-on-ones. But she said, like, do you know what your job is? Like, you are the one who is out there like a firefighter, going out there with your fire extinguisher, your strategy, your other firefighters that are out there. You're like the chief of the firefighters. And so your job is to get out there and to make sure people are in the positions that they need to be in so they can be able to do their job well. And so I thought about that and I said to myself, isn't that interesting? Because I would think that a one-on-one meeting was strictly for status meetings. That's what I usually thought that they were for. And so in the chat, I'd love for you all to, in the comments, like, tell me, what do you think in terms of one-on-one meetings? What is your particular impression of one-on-one meetings? Because I'd love to know, what your thoughts are, because I think it's really important that we underscore that point. So what has been your experience with one-on-one meetings? What's been your perspective on that? Definitely drop that in the chat because I'd love to know. So that's what we're exploring here today. So in this next slide, what is a one-on-one meeting? Because I was, I thought to myself, like, going back, way back in the day when I was first introduced to one-on-one meetings, I thought, okay, I'm just supposed to just sit there and get assignments. That's honestly what I thought it was. Get assignments, and I heard of performance reviews, and then that was it. But actually, there is the father of one-on-one meetings is Andrew Grove, who's the late CEO of Intel. That's a technology computer company. And essentially, he wrote a book called High Output Management, talking all about managing and work and all different types of things. And so essentially, he coined the term one-on-one meetings. Who knew? But here we are, just in case you need a fun fact. But essentially, a one-on-one meeting is a conversation between managers and direct reports. That's pretty much what the one-on-ones are. Now, here's the question, though. Here's the question I have. If it's just a conversation, why do we feel, or why is there a notion or idea out there that one-on-one meetings are not productive, or that they're boring, or that we can skip them? Why is that? And I think we're going to explore, what we're going to be exploring here tonight is how we can make them productive and focused, because that's tonight's question that we are asking ourselves, is how do I structure a one-on-one meeting to ensure it's productive and focused? So that's what we're really keenly focused on here today. So what's in the anatomy of a one-on-one meeting? So here are two things that I believe really help us as leaders and as team members start to build really good momentum when it comes to one-on-one meetings. Creating a 90-10 agenda. Let me tell you what a 90-10 agenda. 90% of the agenda from a manager's perspective is focused on the team member, not you. Okay, 10% is you. And then keeping a rolling document of issues, questions, and project-related updates. So I put project-related updates last because we should not be utilizing, and even from a manager's perspective, should not be utilizing this as just status meeting. I did this, I did that. Now, when you have team meetings, when you have, team meetings and such, if you have 15-minute sprint meetings, those are great because you're really just keying in on those issues, and you really need to know where these projects are and where the tasks are stated. So that's what I would say is in the anatomy of a one-on-one meeting. Other things to keep into perspective is that you want to make sure that it's an open and trusted environment. You want to build psychological safety. That's something I've been reading a lot about over the past year when it comes to managing remote teams, building up your staff, really bonding with people that you work with. People want to feel psychologically safe. What does that mean exactly? It means that when people present ideas, thoughts, maybe it's contrary to culture of the organization or what you think, you're not going to sit there and just like beat them with the bat, right? You're not going to sit there and jump down their throat. You're not going to make them feel some type of way about their own opinion. And I think this is where, when we've talked about this a little bit before, about what does it mean to be an emotionally intelligent project manager? Many people ask me this question, which is, okay, Ashley, I'm looking to get into project management. What is it like? And I always lead with this, is that you will be working with people. Many people are like, duh, I'm going to be working with people. But if you really don't want to work with people, then you should just go ahead and tap on out. Just go ahead and tap on out. I'm telling you, because it is such a people-facing position. You're not going to be the type of person that can hide from people when you're a project manager. You got to talk to people, you got to interact with them, you got to make decisions, you got to listen. It is it's a role that requires energy. And so you got to think through, even if you're more on the introverted side of things, you're going to want to really think through how you're going to go about interacting with people. You're going to want to look at your schedule as well. And you want to make sure that you're going to have meetings and things in places, and also like places that you need to recharge. Like, you're not going to want to have a whole bunch of back-to-backs. And if you can help it, because sometimes depending on where you are organizationally, or let me reverse that word, wherever you are positioned within your organization, or if you are perhaps working for an entrepreneur, you may have some more flexibilities around your schedule. But as a habit and a practice, yeah, you want to kind of watch out for time suckers, energy suckers, and back-to-back meetings will do that. But my point is, when we talk about creating a psychologically safe environment, you want to be emotionally intelligent. Okay. And that's a key quality and trend that takes you from a good PM to a great and excellent PM, especially as we head into 2025. You got to know that. So as you're framing your one-on-one meetings, keep that in mind, especially when it comes to the agenda. All right. Any questions on that so far? Just go ahead and drop questions in the chat. Share this live stream out. This is super, super really good. So how do we run a successful one-on-one meeting? Good question. From a manager's perspective, and I just want to drill down again on the point we just talked about, creating an agenda that's 90% focused on the team member, and also asking questions. Asking questions is really good. Why? Because what it does is that it opens everything up, the conversation up. You kind of doing like a little volley, so to speak. You're doing a volley over to the team member or employee and saying, okay, you talk. I want to hear from you. It's not to say that every single one-on-one that it'll be 90-10. It may be 50-50, right? But it's truly focused in on the actual person, the actual employee, and asking questions. So what do we mean by asking questions? I remember too, working on a team, and there was a team member who said, okay, Ashley, I'm going to have this particular deliverable due by X date. And I said, okay, cool. Do you think it could be sooner? Do you think that we could, move it up? Well, it depends, Ash. Like, I don't know. Like, I need more information. I'm thinking I could get it by this date. I'm kind of just letting you know that that's my goal. And I said, okay, cool. Like, I'm not going to push it. Go back and I go talk to my director, and we were just having a one-on-one and kind of catching up. And the question that came back to me was like, okay, why didn't you ask a deeper question? Like, why didn't you get down into the root of why someone may not be able to deliver on this particular task? I said, and oftentimes we think that we can't ask questions, or if we're asking too many questions, that makes it intrusive. No, it doesn't. Asking questions is the name of the game. Going deeper is essential as a project manager. And so what I should have done in that moment is to say, hey, can we talk about what could be potential blockers? What are risks? What do you need? Is there anything that is slowing you down? Is there anything that's slowing you down? And so I think that's really important for us to hone in on, right? I think this is super, super important for us to understand. We got to ask questions. We got to ask really good questions. We got to ask the questions that will move the needle. So what do some of those questions look like? All right, let's take it step by step. In the past month, what have you been happy about? In the past month, what have you been less happy about? How can I help you with X, which could be a task or a project? Any feedback for me? What can I do to make your professional life better? These are some good questions, open-ended. Some of them are softballs. Some of them are really targeted. But I like this because what happens is that you're going to get an opportunity to go underneath and go a little bit deeper. So when you talk, so depending on also the cadence of your one-on-one, this could be weekly, it could be bi-weekly, it also could be monthly. So for instance, if you have a monthly one-on-one, you could say, hey, what's happening this month? Like, what are you really jazzed about? What are you really happy about? And then vice versa. What are you not happy about? My old, I never say old, but basically she's my first business coach that I have. I always say the forever business coach. She has this phrase that I love. What is messy, broken, or slow? So shout out to Jordan Gill. So I always love this phrase because it makes you think about whatever the situation that's presented and think, okay, man, what is messy right now? What's broken? What's slow? What needs to be fixed? And so you begin to start reflecting on that. And so I like these types of questions, like what have you been less happy about? And of course, you can revise because these are sample questions. How can I help you with X? Good question. I always get this question as well because I think it's really important that you feel supported by management to say, how can I help you with X? And so I think that there's a couple of ways to look at that. Number one could be that you might need a little bit more leverage and power when it comes to stakeholder engagement and authority. Like, hey, if next time you're in a meeting with this person, can you mention this? Can you ask about this? I think that's really important. Sometimes it can actually be directly in terms of you needing assistance with completing a task. Perhaps it's reviewing a slide deck, a memo, an email, just getting feedback. I think it's really important for that. And speaking of feedback, any feedback for me? And so this is where you have to really sort of think about, how your relationship is with your particular manager. And so I think this is really going to be good the particular question that you have for your employee. That's what I'm trying to say. But again, you can sort of reverse that, and we can get into some other questions that team members can also ask you as well. But any feedback for me, you want to ensure when it comes to the feedback piece, you want to make sure that it's good, right? You want to make sure that you have a psychologically safe environment where they can pour into you and say, hey, I can just give you feedback. Hey, this is not, optimal, And so I remember providing feedback as well. to someone. And it was a challenge at first because you don't want to feel as if you're attacking someone or like poking at them. But one of the things that I said was, hey, I think it would be great if when we have these particular meetings each week, that we just have a certain focus or direction. Sometimes I don't know, where it is that we're going. And, I think that's really important to, just to do. So I think for me, that was probably a huge thing, was to get out of my nerves of providing that level of feedback and to, just go ahead and say something honest, because at the end of the day, like, you can say anything you want, but it's important that you focus on the issue, right? Focus on the particular issue. Now, sometimes people say this, which I can kind of get down with this. Focus on the problem and not the person. But some people might say the problem is the person. And that's a whole nother live stream. That's a whole nother live stream when the problem is exactly the person. But I'm tickled by that. So what's the last one? What can I do to make your professional life better? What can I do to make your professional life better? And so I think that from a manager perspective, that's such a good question to ask, right? Like, what can I do to make your professional life better? What are some of those areas? And that could be that you can do more professional development, courses, training. They could feel more supported, right? By, in their role. So think about that. Questions so far? Questions so far? All right, team member, employee perspective. So maximize your one-on-one time. Maximize it. Share feedback. Pinpoint roadblocks. Discuss strategy. Provide solutions. Don't just present problems. Nobody wants somebody that's like, I got all these problems and you're the one to solve them. So just like we got finished talking about the sample questions that managers can ask from the perspective of, A, are you happy? What are you happy about? What you sad about? How can I help, make your life better? Those types of things. You want to share feedback. Share feedback on the work, share feedback on your team members, share feedback on anything that you touch or are involved in. Or also any type of observations that you see. And this is how you go from, especially as employees, whether you are a PM or an individual contributor, this is how you go from good to great, is when you're able to actually go in deep and say, hey, I've observed X. Have you observed this? So share your feedback, pinpoint any roadblocks, anything that's going to get in the way of a work, of a goal, a task, anything. Just go ahead and pinpoint that. Discuss strategy. I love this because when you can go into a situation and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking when it comes to the way in which we should approach this work, this particular task. What do you think? Am I thinking in the right manner? So that's what you'll want to do. Provide solutions. Don't just present problems. Let me tell you something. Again, going from good to great. When you say, this is what I've noticed, this is the direction of where we are, this is my proposed solution. Loop that right back into pinpoint roadblocks and discuss strategy. And you can say, this is where I think we're headed, and this is where a roadblock is. But can I present to you the strategy in which I think we can get out of this? Hey, let's talk about being in the line of fire. Let's talk about being in the line of fire, okay? And this is how you navigate it. This is how you navigate it, my friends. This is how you navigate it. Okay. Sample questions. What's your highest priority right now? How can I help? Let me tell you something. You being able to, as an individual contributor, contributor, or as a project manager that is sitting directly under another manager, you asking the question, how can I help? Gold. Some of you might be saying, I can't ask that question because I got too much work. Well, here's the thing. I think you should always ask that question because you never know how that actually weaves directly into your work. It may not necessarily be an additional task or anything. Is there anything I should be doing differently? So I think this is really a good question to ask. It's going to take some humility. You can't be touchy-feely about it. You're going to have to just embrace what type of feedback people may have. And I used to be someone who was like, I ain't gonna have no ill feedback. You gonna tell me I'm great. And then I wasn't great in some areas. But that's the way it goes. Like if you want to go from good to great, you gotta dive into saying, okay, this is what you should be doing differently. And I've asked that question. I'm like, hey, I'm trying to do X. Am I doing this right? Or maybe I should have done it differently. You tell me. What should I consider adding to my growth plan? I'm a firm believer that everyone should have a personal development plan. It should not be dictated by your employer, or again, whether it's in corporate, whether you work for an entrepreneur, whatever it is. Have your own growth plan, have your own areas and where you want to grow. And so I've even thought about that into next year. Okay, Ashley, where are your areas that you want to grow in? Where do you want to grow in? Where do you want to really sink your teeth in? What part of my job would you like more visibility? So this is tricky because, some people are like, why you got to be all up in my business? No. But I think this is really good because there could be, either some projects or some aspects of the work that they don't know about. So what do? You ask. It doesn't mean that you have to literally give them 50 million updates, every single day about it, but grab some visibility and be able to show them, like shine a light on what you're doing. I think anytime that you can help people see how you work, how you think, how you execute, how you lead, ooh, baby, you're going from good to great. You're going from good to great. All right, let's see what else we have. Demo time. We're going to go to demo time, and I think this is really important. And we're going to switch screens in just 2.5 seconds. All right. One of my favorite tools out here is called Coda. Coda is, you would say, like a cousin to Notion, cousin to Airtable. And so they have something called docs. You can create a doc. I'm a doc maker. And you can do all sorts of things. You can manage projects in here. I love it for its documentation purposes. I love the fact that you can add media, you can add tables and data and all sorts of things inside here. And so what's really cool about managing meetings inside of Coda is, and we talked about this before, which is create a 90-10 agenda, and that there should be a rolling document that I believe the team member or the individual contributor who's on the opposite side of the one-on-one, that person should keep a rolling list of agenda items, action items, and things like that. So here's a database that has all of the agenda items. So it has, whether it's been done or if it still needs to be discussed. It has added by, the date that it's added, the topic, it has the notes, and it has the action items. What's great about this is that you can pull this up in a meeting and you can be able to say, hey, we need to talk about this. We need to talk about end of year reviews, team mentorship. So if you have more to add, I'm just going to add something right here. And let's say I'm going to add it in for Friday. And it's going to be really cool because I can be in the Slack channel and I can say, hey, I've added mobile app risk management guide. I can open it up and I can just write some notes in here. Want to discuss how to leverage past risk management guides for our current one. Need to ask Alex to develop risk register. I need to schedule first risk management meeting. Okay. So this is great because once again, you can actually go and, you can actually go and add a topic here, and then you have notes right here. And what's great about these action items is that you can auto generate them if you want to. You can do like a checklist, and you can add need to schedule meeting. Or what's great is that they have an AI feature where if you wanted to, you can have an AI prompt. And in the AI prompt, you can summarize what the action items are. But again, this is a very easy way to just have a rolling agenda of topics, and you can bring it up on the screen and then go through each one of those topics and discuss and ask, whether it's key questions, put action items out there, key discussion items, everything. I think this is it's just a gem. It's just a gem to do. And so I wanted to just share that with you because, and this is also super easy to set up. Coda has so many different types of templates. You're not going to sit there and say, oh, Ashley, another tool. I got to learn the tool. Sure, there's a little bit of a learning curve, but this tool is super easy to use. You can use a template. You can go and change up the section headings, and you are good to go. But I think this is such a smart tool to use, and it really just helps to keep everybody organized. You can even assign action items, when you need to. So if you need to assign, you can actually have I know that we have the people field right here, but you can also say, who's it's assigned to, right? And you can be able to do that. Oh, did it do it yet or no? Let's see, people. Okay, great. So it could be that you assign to. Oh, assign to. So you can do it like that if you wanted to. There's so many different, things that, can happen. You can also add in Slack. You could also add Slack, and you could say, post a message. So you can post a message to a user, send a Slack, and then you just connect your account, and then you can write whatever the particular formula is, whatever you need to do. And then you can also put in, whatever it is that you kind of need to. So there's some really cool stuff that can happen in terms of posting a message when you can utilize Slack. So, you can post a message, you can go and post a topic, and you can post to the channel. So if you have something inside of Slack, you may have a one-on-one Slack channel, like a private one, and that could just be your way of communicating one-on-one with your manager. And then that's easy to, give quick updates and things like that, tag them into something. So that's all that I have for you all today. Mastering one-on-one meetings, the ultimate guide to one-on-one meetings. So if you all have any questions, be sure to connect with me on Instagram or on LinkedIn. I'd love to connect with you if you have any type of questions about one-on-one meetings. I'd love to be able to chat with you. I think it's awesome. Also, something that I definitely want to highlight too, I have 5 spots open this month. I may carry it over to January if I have, any spots left. But for those of you that are in the project management space that are looking to say, hey, what is my next career move? I'm a bit stuck. I kind of don't know where to turn. I'm offering, and I have an offer for a 2-hour PM career accelerator. We're going to do it all. We're going to look at your strengths. We're going to look at how you can leverage your current opportunities. We're going to do a career roadmap. It's going to be a lot of fun. So go ahead and book the call. It's in the show notes on YouTube and LinkedIn, but also on Instagram. It's on my Instagram link in bio. But yeah, send me a message, send me a voice note especially if you want to talk about it. But it's a good time. It's going to be a really good time. So thank you all so very much for today's lesson. The ultimate guide to one-on-one meetings. Share this live stream with about 3 to 7 to 5 to 10 people. And I look forward to talking to you guys soon. All right. See ya.